hired by Air Canada at the age of 23 made me feel like I'd won the lottery. Things were changing in the 70s. Women were breaking into a lot of fields, and it was becoming evident that the major airlines would start hiring women. There'd been a few hired in the States. My friend Rosella Bjornsson had been hired by Transair in Winnipeg. I knew that I was breaking new ground, but it really was just more that I wanted to fly. From the first flight in a small airplane, I was absolutely hooked on flying and would do almost anything to pursue that career. So it wasn't that I really thought about being in a male-dominated field. And for the most part, everyone I worked with was wonderful. I was welcomed at Air Canada. A lot of the older pilots I flew with, it was quite funny. They would say to me, "I'm fine flying with a female pilot, but I don't know about so-and-so." And then I'd fly with the other fellow they were talking about, and he would actually say, "I'm fine, I'm very open-minded, I have no problem with this at all, but I'm worried about my friend Fred." And so they'd be actually pointing the finger at each other, but were very accepting of me for the most part. Being hired by Air Canada at the age of 23 made me feel like I'd won the lottery. This is something I'd been striving for the previous 5.5 years. I'd gone through 2 years at aviation college, being the only female in a class. And then I worked for 2.5 years, including one very memorable year flying up north. I was a DC-3 co-pilot, and we did a lot of our own loading, flying through at one point 1 month of complete darkness, because in Inuvik, where I was living, well north of the Arctic Circle, the sun actually did not rise for a whole month during the winter month of December. Rolling fuel drums and loading freight. That's how badly I wanted to get that job with the airline. So finally getting the job with Air Canada was just a dream come true. I was used to being, not, I'd say maybe an outsider, but I was used to being the only female, because at that point I'd gone through all my training as the only girl in the class. And everywhere I flew, I was the only female. So I was pretty much used to it. It wasn't anything new. And once I got with the airline, I was very well received by almost all of the men that I flew with. So it was a really good experience. It was wonderful to be recognized by my peers, other women in aviation. And this is something I feel strongly about. I think women need to see role models. I think they need to have mentorship, leadership, see other women performing these roles, and then they're more likely to choose these careers. The 99s have been around since 1929. It was a big honor to be placed on their stamp, along with many other outstanding Canadian women. As for the Northern Lights Aero Foundation, after I received their award, I decided to join their board of directors, because I feel very strongly again that it's important for us to celebrate other women in these non-traditional occupations, so that we can inspire young women to enter these careers. Despite the fact that I started flying in 1973, and I worked for Air Canada for 37 years from 1978 on, there are still only about 5 to 6% female pilots commercially worldwide. So the numbers really haven't increased, and we need to do something about it. Northern Lights has an award celebration once a year for outstanding Canadian women. We have 7 different categories, from flight operations, education, rising stars. And basically we find the women who are performing in these fields and celebrate them, so that young women, female students, can come and see what's possible. It's been a fantastic opportunity for me, and now we have a scholarship. Air Canada was wonderful. 3 years ago they started a scholarship in my name, and each year we celebrate those young women at our Northern Lights Gala. They are women who are learning to fly, or performing careers, or pursuing, I should say, careers in aircraft maintenance. The scholarship is for Canadian women who are pursuing a career in either aircraft maintenance or to be pilots. We've had a great number of applications each year, and I'm proud to say that Air Canada will be extending the scholarship after this year for another 3 years. So that will be 6 years in total. And what's really surprising to me is how many, and wonderful and gratifying, is there's so many young women now entering the career, which is good, because there's been quite a setback during COVID, but there was a great shortage of aviation personnel looming, There will be a pilot shortage and also a shortage of maintenance engineers, so it's a great field for young women to get into at this time. By the time they finish their training, I believe there will be lots of opportunities for them. The scholarship is a scholarship $5,000 per person, normally awarded to 4 individuals, to help them pursue their career, their education in flight training or aircraft maintenance. Particularly flight training is very expensive. It can cost upwards of $100,000 to get all your qualifications. And that's very difficult when the first jobs that a new pilot would start at usually are fairly low paying. But it definitely is worth it in the end. I love my career and I really encourage other young women to pursue it. During retirement, I'm focusing a lot on Northern Lights, doing fundraising, working on the scholarship, doing outreach events when those resume again. Some of the most fun that I had was going to things like the CNE, setting up a booth, and we would have kids come up and we would let them try on our pilot's cap and our tunic, take a picture holding up a sign saying, you know, time for takeoff, that sort of thing. Really enjoyed that, and also talking to students, other young women who are pursuing careers in aviation, going to colleges or getting career advice. But when I'm not doing that, I like to hike a lot. I'm outside every day, or cycle. I found a group of friends that even during COVID were able to go out on a weekend and have a lovely long cycle. And I'm also a terrible golfer, so I golf in my spare time. Although this summer, of note, I got a hole-in-one, which just proves anyone can get one. To an aspiring pilot, I would say, wholeheartedly throw yourself into pursuing your dream. Don't let anyone dissuade you. Other people might try and limit you, but don't limit yourself. If you want it badly enough, go for it. It's worth it. The sweet life means to me flying a beautiful airplane like the 777, watching the sunrise going across the Atlantic, arriving at a destination like Rome, going out to a lovely restaurant and having authentic pasta on a patio with interesting co-workers, or perhaps my spouse or my children that were able to come along on the flight as a passenger. That's the Dolce Vita.